Andre Kachaturian of Armenian Sports News here with Jason Taktasian. Jason, I have a new haircut, but the results on the pitch were not new. They were the same for our Armenian national football team, losing 6-1 to Georgia in the second leg of the Nations League in Tbilisi, and combined aggregate score of 9-1. So Armenia will stay in League C in the next UEFA Nations League cycle. But I think the bigger storyline here is Jason's how they lost.
Yeah, it wasn't good. I mean, we already knew going into this tie, let alone the second leg, that Armenia were an underdog and they weren't going to be favored to win this game and tie or anything like that. But, 6-1 away from home it's just bad, man. It was what, 5-0, 5-0 at halftime, and apologies that my laptop is making noise because yeah, it's just so disheartening that we have Armenia just basically playing almost as if they don't care. Specifically, the fourth and fifth goals that Armenia conceded against Georgia were from bad back passes from the defense that basically just was giving the goal on a silver platter to the Georgian offense. And that's just so sad to see. It's just a lack of cohesion, a lack of communication, a lack of everything. And you can obviously tell that this team just doesn't know its identity, doesn't know what it's doing. It has a new coach that's trying to implement its own thing and already has gotten into a bit of a row with a player, Grant Ranos, who ended up not even being part of this roster for the second leg because he asked for more playing time, and Skips basically said, "Yeah, get out of here, and we're not doing this. I've dealt with players like this before, and yeah, we're not doing this." So he's going basically back to Kaiserslautern in Germany. He's going to focus on club soccer. Meanwhile, Armenia continues to suffer. So, I mean, at this point, it's like, whoa, what's it gonna give, right? Armenia have had two of their most important games in some time against Georgia that would have put them in what, Group B, and instead they stay in Group C, so, or League C,
So
and yeah, I
I
just I don't know
I
what to say. What else do you say, Andre? What else do you say after losing 9-1 on aggregate to anybody?
well, it's definitely one of the biggest losses. Uh, we've talked about Armenian soccer, for ever since we launched ASN in 2021, and I remember when I first launched ASN, March of 2021. It was on the heels of the 2022 FIFA World Cup qualifying qualifiers, and they immediately started off with three straight wins, um, you know, to begin that World Cup cycle. And that was the birth of ASN as well, March of 2021. So I was like, wow, I launched ASN and Armenia is 3-0 in World Cup qualifiers. How great is that? Since that time, it's literally been all downhill. So um, they've had other big losses too. This isn't their first big loss. They lost 6-0 to Germany in that same uh, qualification tournament. But then again, you could say, okay, that was Germany. It was on the road. After that, the same World Cup qualification cycle, they lost 5-0 to North Macedonia at home. I think this loss to Georgia is just as bad as that loss because they that's an embarrassing loss. That's a team that you shouldn't lose 5-0 to, and they lost 6-1 to Georgia. It's a similar kind of opponent. They lost 9-0 to Norway. They lost 5-0 to Ukraine in the Nations League in 2022. And then they've also had some bad losses against some really weak teams, like the Faroe Islands. They lost 1-0 at home to the Faroe Islands, and that was a few months ago. So this isn't anything new. This is obviously another embarrassing loss. We can do a top 10 Armenia losses just from the last 4 years. We should do something like that on ASN.
You're absolutely right. There's actually quite a few games to choose from considering implications, goals conceded. It's funny because it's true. I don't, I just, where does the Armenia go from here? I mean, they just hope that maybe the new coach figures out this team. I mean, you just got a brand new coach. I'm sure they're paying him a pretty penny. It's, it's not easy to just get anybody that was used to, European style football, living in, Netherlands, to come to Armenia and now be a coach. I'm sure they're compensating him well, but right now, you couldn't have asked for a worse start to a coach's tenure.
Jason, you don't want to be the Las Vegas Raiders and just fire coach after coach when things don't go your way. I
No,
don't think this is
you
the
can't.
a coach
You're not going to
issue.
do that. It's not going to look good.
You
It's
don't
just
have any talent on the pitch, and you just lost another guy in Grant Ranos. You don't have any talent. You need to reach out to Henrik Mkhitaryan and ask him to come back. That's the only way this is ever going to turn around quickly. The guy,
mend the relationship. Yeah. Mend the relationship and move on. I mean, at this point, it's like, thinking that a franchise has some sort of leverage over a guy like LeBron James. Like, obviously, Mkhitaryan's not that level, but when it comes to Armenian sports, he is. When it comes to Armenian sports, Armenian soccer, he is. And I don't understand how a federation just continues to just brush to the side that sort of relationship and not sort of make that effort to try to, move past that because he's still playing and starting for one of the best European clubs that we got right now for years at this point, competing in the biggest tournaments, and he has the legs for it. But he's constantly said and he's stood firm on his position that he's not going to return to the national team. And, you
that's
know,
not true.
it,
He came out and said that.
well,
Uh,
that he just wouldn't be involved. But, like, obviously anything
no,
is possible.
recently he said he in an interview that I think that was actually more so to playing for an Armenian club at the end of his career. But anyway, continue.
Anyway, I mean, and the point still stands. He's now with the national team. He retired, and he still has legs underneath him. Obviously, we've seen some players for like the German national team do similar things, like Tony Cruz and Thomas Muller. But this is different, because it's just a different situation with a young squad that should have somebody like a Mkhitaryan to play and live up to, and play for. Because it just makes the team better. That's what Argentina do. They play for Lionel Messi, and that's how they ended up winning a World Cup.
Yeah,
Armenia doesn't
and if
have
you
that.
look at the downfall of Armenian soccer is right when Mkhitaryan left the team in 2021, and that's when all these losses have been coming along. I know when they started off 3-0 in the World Cup cycle, Mkhitaryan wasn't playing in those games, but he was still part of the team. He was hurt, I believe. But ever
For
since
some
he's left
reason,
the
he
team,
didn't play.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, for some reason, he didn't play.
Yeah. I mean, maybe there was already stuff going on between him and the Federation. Who knows? But I do remember him still being part of the team. Anyway, Armenia continues its quest, or begins its quest for the FIFA World Cup 2026, which at this point, I have a better shot of probably going to 7-Eleven and winning a lottery there than Armenia making the World Cup at this point with the way they're playing. But there's a lot of time. There's 6 months for for them to turn it around. On September 6th, Armenia will take on either Portugal or Denmark in the first match of the World Cup qualifiers. Um, and until then, they have a couple friendlies in June against Kosovo and Montenegro. You definitely want a positive result in those games just to give yourself some confidence walking into a match against, potentially Cristiano Ronaldo. That's
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, we got a lot of important games coming up for Armenia, and right now, this is something that I think I said this last time after Armenia's last batch of qualifiers. But you want to just forget about what happened in the past and look forward to the future because if you keep on focusing on the past, it's probably going to end up continuing to be your present, and that's what
well,
Armenia's
it's
basically had.
easier said than done when you are uh, it's again, it's much easier said than done. There needs to be a change, whether one of these young guys really breaks out. But right now, again, the only way this is going to get fixed, in my opinion, is you need to make amends with Henrik Mkhitaryan. I don't know what that's going to entail, but you need to make a call today, I think, or else this This is just going to keep happening. And right now, for the first time, I think ever, you can say that the women there's more to be excited about than the women's national team than the men's, and that's a big statement because it wasn't a long time ago when the women's national team was getting their doors blown off in games, and now they have a 2 game winning streak. They have a couple Nations League matches coming up in April, and I'm more excited about those games than anything the Armenian men's team is doing right now. And
Yeah, it was a
but
long
but
time
but
ago that they
with
didn't
that
even
said,
exist.
sorry, Jason. With that said, you saw how quickly the women's team was able to turn the switch and now are relevant again. This isn't going to take a long time. All it takes is a couple of good results and building some good confidence, and Armenia will be a force to be reckoned with again.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes back to the point that I was just making. It wasn't too long ago that the women's team didn't even exist. So, again, like you said, they could turn it around almost within a snap of the fingers. They've proven it. And who's to say that the men's team can't do that without, some wholesale changes?
Absolutely.